The first handheld cellular phone call was made on April 3, 1973, by Motorola engineer Martin Cooper from 6th Avenue in New York while walking between 53rd and 54th Streets. Marty Cooper is an American engineer. He is a pioneer in the wireless communications industry, especially in radio spectrum management, with 11 patents in the field. The pricing about this first handheld cellular phone was about $4,000. These early mobile phones are often referred to as zero-G mobile phones, or zero-generation mobile phones. Electronic numerical integrator and computer was the first programmable, electronic, general-purpose digital computer. It was Turing complete, and able to solve a large class of numerical problems through reprogramming. English mathematician and inventor Charles Babbage is credited with having conceived the first automatic digital computer. During the mid-1830s, Babbage developed plans for the analytical engine. The first computer was invented by Charles Babbage 1822 but was not built until 1991. In 1891, James William Lambert was involved in the first automobile accident in American history. The accident occurred in Ohio City, Ohio. Ada Lovelace has been called the world's first computer programmer. What she did was write the world's first machine algorithm for an early computing machine that existed only on paper. Of course, someone had to be the first, but Lovelace was a woman, and this was in the 1840s. From the age of 4, Lovelace was tutored in mathematics and science, an unusual course of study for a woman in 19th century England. At the age of 12, Lovelace conceptualized a flying machine. At the age of 17, Lovelace met inventor and mathematician Charles Babbage and watched him demonstrate a model portion of his difference engine, an enormous mathematical calculating machine that has led to his being dubbed the father of the computer. After becoming Babbage's protege, she translated into English an article written by military engineer and future Italian Prime Minister, Luigi Menabrea, about Babbage's theoretical analytical engine. Lovelace augmented the translation with her own notes about the analytical engine that were 3 times as long as the original paper and published in an English journal in 1843 with only her initials, AAL. In Note G of her elaborate paper, Lovelace wrote of how the machine could be programmed with a code to calculate Bernoulli numbers, which some consider to be the first algorithm to be carried out by a machine and thus the first computer program. Although Ada Lovelace was English poet Lord George Gordon Byron's only legitimate child, he was hardly an exemplary father. The first words he spoke to his newly born daughter were, "Oh, what an implement of torture have I acquired in you." The marriage between the erratic, abusive and womanizing poet and Lovelace's mother, Lady Anne Isabella Milbank Byron, was brief and unhappy. Carl Benz patented the 3-wheeled motor car, known as the Motorwagen, in 1886. It was the first true, modern automobile. Benz also patented his own throttle system, spark plugs, gear shifters, a water radiator, a carburetor and other fundamentals to the automobile. On January 29, 1886, Carl Benz applied for a patent for his vehicle powered by a gas engine. The patent, number 37,435, may be regarded as the birth certificate of the automobile. In July 1886, the newspapers reported on the first public outing of the 3-wheeled Benz patent motor car, model number 1 under license from Benz, in France by Émile Roger. The first company to build a car. Carl Benz built his first car in 1885 and he patented it in January 1886, but the Mercedes name wouldn't be adopted until 1901. Eugen Sandow was a Prussian bodybuilder and showman. Born in Königsberg, Sandow became interested in bodybuilding at the age of 10 during a visit to Italy. After a spell in the circus, Sandow studied under strongman Ludwig Durlacher in the late 1880s. Bodybuilding developed in the late 19th century, promoted in England by German Eugen Sandow, now considered as the father of modern bodybuilding. He allowed audiences to enjoy viewing his physique in muscle display performances. On March 7, 1876, 29-year-old Alexander Graham Bell receives a patent for his revolutionary new invention, the telephone. The Scottish-born Bell worked in London with his father, Melville Bell, who developed visible speech, a written system used to teach speaking to the deaf. Telephones made it easier for businesses to communicate with each other. It cut down on the amount of time it took to send messages to each other. As the telephone network grew, it also expanded the area that a business could reach. On the 19th of February 1880, the photophone, also called a radiophone, is invented jointly by Alexander Graham Bell and Charles Sumner Tainter at Bell's Volta Laboratory. The device allowed for the transmission of sound on a beam of light. While in Boston, Alexander Graham Bell became very interested in the possibility of transmitting speech over wires. Samuel F. B. Morse's invention of the telegraph in 1843 had made nearly instantaneous communication possible between two distant points. The drawback of the telegraph, however, was that it still required hand delivery of messages between telegraph stations and recipients, and only one message could be transmitted at a time. Bell wanted to improve on this by creating a harmonic telegraph, a device that combined aspects of the telegraph and record player to allow individuals to speak to each other from a distance. Bertha Benz was the first person to drive an automobile. Bertha Benz was born on May 3, 1849 in Pforzheim, Germany. While being an unmarried woman, she was free to invest her money freely, but several of those companies quickly failed. However, after marrying Karl, under German law, she no longer had the option to act as a rightful investor, so most of her money went to supporting her husband's inventing attempts. To his credit, he actually patented a few useful car parts, or rather, car systems, such as the speed regulation system, the spark plug, the ignition using sparks with battery, the carburetor, the clutch, the gear shift, and the water radiator. Which came quite handy once one of his business ventures took off in 1885, the first horseless carriage, the patent motorwagen. She realized that people were scared of everything new, feared it even, and just needed to be convinced that having and driving a horseless carriage would make their lives easier. But even after several straightforward marketing presentations and updated and upgraded versions of the vehicle, there were still no buyers. The Benzes were desperate. All their money was tied up in this. But Bertha realized that what people needed was a definite proof that the vehicle was reliable and could also master long-distance routes. Thus, she devised a plan. She will be going on a first-ever road trip in the Benz patent motorwagen No. 3. So, She decided it was time on August 5, 1888, when the school vacation began. Bertha Benz let her sons Eugen 15 years old and Richard 13 years old into her plan, and they carefully made their way to the factory around 5 a.m. in the morning. They quietly pushed the vehicle out of the workshop and only started it once it was a safe distance away from the house, by turning the horizontal flywheel. As the story goes, she left a note on the kitchen table for Carl, who was still asleep, with a message that she was on her way to Forsheim to be with her mother for a few days, but said nothing about how she planned to get there. Only when he later noticed that the vehicle was missing, had he realized that they were not traveling by train.